Oh,
Somebody's back here again. I hear footprints.
hey! Hey!
He just keeps walking around, and he's like really close to my truck.
Stepping into the wilderness alone can be a peaceful escape, until nature reminds you that you're not the only predator out there. Some encounters are so terrifying and primal that they leave a mark long after they're over. Tonight we're diving into the 4 most unsettling real-life wilderness encounters ever caught on camera. The first one is approximately a 6-minute nightmare that will make you think twice before your next solo hike. This is the story of Kyle Burgess and his 6-minute nightmare with a mountain lion that will make you rethink your next hike. Kyle was no stranger to Utah's Slate Canyon trails. As an avid hiker, he often found solace in the rugged beauty of the mountains, the crisp air, and the rhythmic crunch of dirt underfoot. But on the evening of October 10th, 2020, his casual run turned into something out of a horror movie. And the scariest part was that every single moment was caught on camera. It all started when Kyle, recording his hike as he often did, spotted a small creature moving ahead on the path. Curious, he stepped closer. It was cougar cubs. Cute, right? Not in the slightest. If there's one rule in the wild, it's this. Where there are babies, a protective mother is never far away. And Kyle was about to meet her.
You!
From the shadows, she emerged, silent, calculating, deadly. A full-grown mountain lion standing between Kyle and any chance of escape. The air seemed to thicken. A primal fear kicked in. This wasn't a casual encounter. This was a standoff, and Kyle was on the losing side. His instincts told him to back away slowly. But the mother cougar wasn't playing games. Every step Kyle took backward, she advanced. Closer and closer. Her muscles tensed. Her eyes locked onto him with a terrifying intensity. And then, she lunged.
No! Get the away!
Kyle's breathing turned ragged. His camera shook violently as he tried to maintain control. Go away! Go away! He shouted, his voice tinged with both fear and desperation. But she wasn't backing down. With each lunge, she kicked up dust, her growls reverberating through the canyon like a death knell. And here's where things get even more terrifying.
Go! 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 No! No! Go away! Go away! Please go away!
Unlike a bear, where you can sometimes play dead, or a wolf, where making yourself look bigger can help a mountain lion stalk. It waits for the right moment. It wants you to run. The second you do, game over. Kyle knew this. He kept his eyes locked on the predator. He kept moving slowly, sometimes speeding up, never turning his back. But the cougar had already decided this intruder needed to be eliminated. For 6 agonizing minutes she pursued him. 6 minutes of relentless stalking, aggressive charges, and heart-stopping moments where it seemed like she was about to pounce for the kill. And then, it happened.
Ah! No. No. I'm being scary. I'm big and... Go away. Go away.
In one last desperate act, Kyle bent down, grabbed a rock, and hurled it toward her with all his strength. The impact didn't hit her directly, but it was enough. She stopped, assessed, and then finally turned, and vanished back into the wilderness.
Yeah, get the away from me. Face. Oh, damn it. Okay. Yeah, so...
Kyle, shaking, breathless, was alive. The footage quickly went viral, a testament to a moment when man met nature in its most primal form. Wildlife experts later praised Kyle's response, maintaining eye contact, standing his ground, and never running. Had he done any of those things wrong, we might not be telling this story the same way. But what makes this encounter so chilling isn't just the footage. It's the thought of what could have happened. Had he tripped? Had he panicked? Had he not had the presence of mind to throw that rock? One wrong move, and this wouldn't have been a viral survival story. It would have been a tragedy. So next time you hit the trails, remember, you're not alone out there. And sometimes, the wilderness reminds you who really runs the show. Did this encounter send shivers down your spine? Then brace yourself, because what comes next is even more terrifying. Issa is a solo traveler who documents her life on the road through her YouTube channel, Asleep 5 decades ago. Her videos capture the beauty and solitude of van life as she explores North America's forests, deserts, and back roads. But in February 2022, Issa uploaded something far more disturbing and creepier than her usual travel vlogs. It was a cold February night, and Issa had parked her van deep in the woods, far from civilization. She was used to the quiet isolation, often camping in remote areas without a second thought. But that night, she would learn just how vulnerable she really was. Around 4:30 a.m., she was jolted awake by an eerie sound, a knock. Not on her van's door, but directly next to her head, as if someone knew exactly where she was sleeping. For a moment, she lay frozen, her heart pounding. It could have been an animal, she thought. But then it happened again.
Somebody's back here again. I hear footprints. Hello?
A firm, deliberate knock. Still groggy, she hesitated before nervously calling out, "Hello?" Silence. No answer. No movement. Just the heavy, suffocating stillness of the night. For the next 15 minutes, Issa sat in silence, listening. Her van was locked, but that hardly felt like enough. Then just as she began to think the worst was over, she heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate steps, crunching against the frost-covered ground. Someone was circling her van. Grabbing her camera, she whispered to herself, trying to make sense of what was happening. Somebody's back here again. There are footprints. Her voice trembled, her breath shallow. Summoning every ounce of courage, she spoke louder this time.
How can I help you? It's 4:30 in the morning. I don't feel safe.
How can I help you? It's 4:30 in the morning. I don't feel safe. Who are you? Nothing. No voice. No response. Just the steady sound of movement outside. Panic set in. She scrambled to the front seat, peeking through the windshield just in time to see a shadowy figure dart behind a tree. Then, as if sensing her gaze, the figure moved again. Then, in the distance, she spotted it.
Parked way up on the drive. All I could see is like headlights, and then they backed out and went and left.
Headlights. A car was parked further down the road, its engine running. As soon as they reached it, the driver backed away, vanishing into the night. And just like that, the unseen figure retreated, disappearing into the darkness. Issa turned the camera on herself, whispering an update as she tried to calm her nerves. but before she could even finish speaking, she heard it again.
I hear footprints. Hear that?
Footsteps. Closer this time. I hear footprints. Hear that? Somebody was just here again. 3 times. This person had come back 3 times. Once to knock, again to circle her van, and now, to what? Watch her? Wait for her to come outside? The realization sent a cold shiver through her spine.
Yeah, somebody was just here again 3 times now. The 3rd time I looked out, they were walking on foot. I seen them walking and they hid behind the big tree there. And then they went to a car, the same car that was here earlier. Well, that was back, and then it backed away and left again.
The next morning, when daylight finally offered some sense of security, Isa stepped outside. That's when she saw them, footprints, dozens of them. Some leading up to her van, others circling it. A clear imprint of someone who had been standing there watching.
So I come out this morning and you can see footprints. Look at this one. This is mine. I'll show you. There's mine. See?
She filmed the evidence, pointing out the chilling patterns. They were actually standing right here. Her audience was quick to speculate. Some suggested it was a thief, someone trying to break into her van. But if that were the case, why keep coming back after hearing her voice? Why stalk her from a distance, hiding in the trees? Others believed it was something far worse. The wilderness is supposed to be a place of solitude and peace. But for Isa, that night proved an unsettling truth. When you're alone in the middle of nowhere, you may not be as alone as you think. Was this scary? Wait till you hear the next one. For most mountain bikers, the thrill of speeding down a rugged trail is what makes the sport so exhilarating. The rush of the wind, the adrenaline coursing through your veins, it's an escape like no other. But sometimes, nature has a way of reminding us who's really in charge. And for one mountain biker in Vancouver, Canada, what was supposed to be just another ride down the mountain turned into a heart-stopping encounter with a predator far more powerful than he was. It started like any other ride. The biker had set up his phone camera to capture himself in action. Just a simple clip of him carving through the dirt trail, a memento of his adventure. But what his camera would end up recording was something far more chilling. As he sped past the camera, everything seemed normal. The trail was smooth, the ride was fast, and he was in control. But then, in an instant, everything changed. He suddenly slammed on his brakes, his body tensing up as he stared at something just ahead. A bear. And not just any bear. A massive one, standing directly in his path. It was a standoff, a moment where instinct had to take over. The biker knew the worst thing he could do was panic. Running would only trigger the bear's predatory instincts, turning him from a passing curiosity into prey. So he made a quick decision. He turned around. He started walking his bike back up the mountain, away from the bear. But as he moved, his worst fear was confirmed. The bear was following him. His voice rang out through the forest. "Hey! Hey!" It was both a warning and a plea. He needed to assert himself, to make the bear see him as something to be wary of rather than something to chase. But the bear wasn't deterred. Step by step, it kept coming, closing the distance between them. He gripped his bike tightly, knowing it was his only defense. Then, in a desperate attempt to make himself appear larger and more intimidating, he lifted it, using it as a barrier between him and the bear. "All right. Hey. Hey!"
Hey! Hey! Hey!
His voice was firm, commanding. He slammed his bike against the ground, hoping the sudden noise would startle the bear. For a moment, it worked. The bear hesitated, stopping in its tracks. Then, in an unexpected move, it turned its attention to the biker's camera, which was still recording everything. Curious, the bear lumbered toward it. A massive paw reached out, knocking it over, the screen filling with static as the camera hit the ground. Then, as if inspecting its newfound discovery, the bear stood over the camera, looming in the frame like a shadowy specter. For what felt like an eternity, the bear stood there, watching, waiting. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it retreated. The biker didn't wait to see if it would change its mind. He seized the opportunity, sprinting forward to retrieve his phone, snatching it up before pedaling away as fast as his legs would carry him. Had the biker panicked and tried to run, the encounter could have ended very differently. The wilderness is breathtaking, but it's also unforgiving. And for those who dare to explore it, encounters like this serve as a chilling reminder. In the wild, you are never truly alone. While this encounter was terrifying, the next one is going to send chills down your spine. For outdoor enthusiasts, truck camping is the ultimate escape. Freedom to sleep under the stars, away from civilization, surrounded by nothing but the quiet stillness of the forest. But for one young camper, that stillness was shattered by something or someone lurking in the dark. In April 2020, a YouTuber named Noah set out on a solo truck camping trip in the remote forests of Sun River, Oregon. His plan was simple: find a secluded spot deep in the woods, set up camp in the back of his truck, and enjoy a peaceful night alone in nature. But that night would be anything but peaceful. After driving miles off the main road, Noah finally found what seemed like the perfect campsite. A hidden clearing where no one would be able to spot his truck from the road. The trees were dense, the undergrowth thick, and the silence absolute. There was no sign of another human for miles. Confident that he was alone, he set up his sleeping space in the back of his vehicle, locked the doors, and settled in for the night. The occasional hoot of an owl or rustle of small animals in the brush was expected in the wilderness, but as he drifted off to sleep, everything seemed completely normal. But that would change in the dead of night. Something or someone would be outside at the unlikeliest hour. At first, it was faint. So faint that Noah wasn't sure he had heard it at all. A soft crunching sound. A twig snapping. The kind of noises that, under normal circumstances, could be explained away as a deer moving through the trees or the wind stirring the forest floor. But then, he heard it again. Closer. And this time, it wasn't random rustling. It was footsteps. Clear. Deliberate. Human. Noah's stomach twisted into a tight knot. Still groggy with sleep, he lay still, listening intently, hoping it was just his imagination. But the sound didn't stop. Someone was circling his truck. His pulse quickened as he reached for his GoPro, his hands shaking slightly as he hit record. "My truck. Right now," he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. "If you can hear that, it's pretty loud. He's been walking around for like 20 minutes already."
I'm currently sleeping in the back of my truck right now. I don't even know what time it is. And there's someone walking around my truck right
Noah sat frozen, barely daring to breathe, his heart hammering against his ribs. Whoever was out there wasn't just passing by. They were staying, lurking, and they weren't afraid to make their presence known. Then, suddenly, a knock.
My truck. How am I supposed to get away? He's literally knocking.
Noah's breath caught in his throat. The stranger was touching his truck. First, the back of the canopy, then the doors, testing them, trying them. How am I supposed to get away? He whispered in terror. Then, another knock, louder this time, and then, silence. Noah clenched his jaw, gripping his camera tightly, willing himself not to make a sound.
Keeps walking around. I don't get it. I'm like, how is he not have noticed? Doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna try to see if he goes away eventually. We'll see. He's literally peeking through the door right now. I've never been this scared ever.
For a moment, he thought maybe, just maybe, they had left. But then, he felt it. Someone was pressing against his truck, their hands sliding over the surface, their fingers smearing against the glass of his back window. And then, a face. A shadowy figure peered inside, trying to see if someone was in there.
I like to get him scared. So he runs away. There he is. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Noah's mind raced. Could they see him? Did they know he was inside? He held his breath, praying they would leave. Minutes stretched on like hours, the tension unbearable. The footsteps shifted, moving to the other side of the truck. Another door handle rattled, then another. Noah was trapped, alone, with no way to call for help. Then just as suddenly as it had begun, the noise stopped. No footsteps, no knocking, nothing. For the next few minutes, Noah sat frozen, straining his ears for any sign of movement. He didn't dare reach for his phone to check the time. Then faintly, he heard it, retreating footsteps. Slowly at first, then fading into the distance. Had they left? Or were they just hiding, waiting for him to come out? Noah didn't move. He didn't dare. It was nearly an hour before he finally started to breathe normally again. Only when the first light of dawn crept through the trees did he finally find the courage to move. Still trembling, he started his engine and peeled out of the forest, his tires kicking up dirt as he sped back toward the main road. When he finally reached home, he pulled over, his hands still shaking on the wheel. But what he saw next made his blood run cold.
So I'm back home. This is the day after. He was trying to peek in my truck quite a bit with all these marks. I didn't even notice until I got home. Handprints there.
Handprints. Dozens of them smudged all over his truck. On the back window, where someone had pressed their face close, trying to see inside. On the doors, where they had desperately tried to get in. Fingertip streaks dragging across the surface like something or someone had been clawing at his truck in the middle of the night. Noah replayed the events in his mind over and over. Who was out there in the pitch-black wilderness, creeping around his truck with no flashlight? Why didn't they say anything when he called out? And most terrifying of all, what would have happened if his doors hadn't been locked? Was it just a thief looking for valuables? If so, why did they come back multiple times after realizing the truck was occupied? Was it someone looking for shelter? Then why try to break in instead of calling out? Or was it something worse?
Well, looks like to be trying to get inside my truck. That's really all I could tell from when he was walking around. More handprints trying to get in my truck. At least the back canopy was locked, but
Noah never posted an update on what happened that night, leaving viewers with more questions than answers. But one thing is certain, whoever was out there wasn't just lost. They were looking for something, or someone. And if Noah hadn't been locked inside his truck that night, the ending to this story could have been very, very different. To this day, Noah doesn't know who or what was out there that night. The eerie handprints and the unsettling silence of the intruder still haunt him. A chilling reminder that sometimes the scariest things in the woods aren't ghosts, but real people. But one thing is certain, he'll never camp alone in those woods again. And honestly, who could blame him? That's all for today, guys. If you want to see more of this creepy content, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.